Dear Mother, as the signs are very good that we shall be entering battle soon, I thought I'd take pen to paper to write you of my experiences. I must say I'm very excited. There's a new Civil War film coming out, though I will admit I'm also filled with a strange sense of trepidation. Our new general is General McConaughey. He is a man of good and deserved reputation, though his previous experience in this field has been somewhat lacking. But it's not my place to question our orders. It's for me to follow them. I do hope that I may enter this battle and come out alive, Mama. I do hope that I may see you again. Send all my love to the family, and know that I hope to come back soon. With the deepest affection, I am your son.
He's out there. He won't miss this.
Decided this time.
There's plenty left to fight for.
Hello everybody, and welcome to a very special edition of Jeremy Reviews, a show dedicated to spreading the truth and sharing a passion for entertainment in a safe and spoiler-free way. And today we're going to be taking a look at the latest Civil War film, Free State of Jones, directed by Gary Ross and starring Matthew McConaughey. Now, for me guys, I'm a Civil War buff. So hearing that there was going to be a new Civil War film got me really excited. So this is one I've been waiting to talk to you guys about. So let's just dive right in. I'm sure you're all going to be interested because this is actually a lesser known story from the Civil War. So what's the premise of Free State of Jones? Well, basically it's about a Confederate soldier named Newton Knight who actually deserted from the Confederacy and started his own civil war, essentially, against the Confederacy to create what ultimately became known as the Free State of Jones.
We declare the land north of Pascagoula Swamp to be a free state of Jones.
It's a legendary tale among Civil War buffs, and it's one that's rarely been told, so I'm pleased that it was finally brought to the big screen. Now, the first thing I have to talk about with this film is the cast of characters. Unfortunately, the only one who I can remember, their names kind of escape me, is Matthew McConaughey himself, who plays as Newton Knight. Now, when I first saw that Matthew McConaughey was in this film, I was very, very worried. Matthew McConaughey is a serious actor, but he always struck me as a contemporary actor, and his performance in things such as Sahara didn't exactly get me excited for him returning to the Civil War. But surprisingly, McConaughey does a very good job. His performance is very believable. There's a definite passion in him. I feel like he took this role very seriously. There's a quiet reserve to him. It's clear that there is a lot going on inside, and what I love about him is just the fact that he doesn't come across as a contemporary in a Civil War film. He's not reenacting. He is Newton Knight. And along with that, I will say that all of the performances in this film across the board are spectacular. From the woman who plays as Newton Knight's love interest to the many Confederate officers that Newton Knight has to fight along the way, everyone turns in a very heartfelt, very believable performance. And that's the heart of this movie. That's its biggest strength. Now, another strength for the film that I want to talk about is the attention to detail when it comes to the Civil War aspect of the film. Now, I've seen a lot of films about the Civil War, and one of the biggest problems that a lot of them have is a problem that a lot of war films in general have, and that is they sentimentalize war. They over-dramatize it. Yes, don't get me wrong. War is a tragic circumstance. It is a terrible thing. But the problem with a lot of war films is that they lose the humanity. They focus on the spectacle. They focus on having, say, there'll be music that's supposed to tell you what you're supposed to feel when serious moments are happening.
Keep it fast and stay close to me. He died with honor.
No, Will.
Now, with this film, they chose to go a much different route. They focused on just the sort of inhumanity of war. And the way they represented that is the simple fact that in war, there aren't really these dramatic, poetic moments. War is not poetic. What happens is men die and the rest just move on, quietly, not even acknowledging it. They die, they move on. They march over the dead bodies in utter silence. The only thing that you'll hear is the beating of the drums to keep them going, maybe a patriotic song in the background. But that's it. It was actually quite refreshing and even shocking watching this movie. Its respect and its understanding of just of the humanity of war. I will also say the makeup in this film is spectacular. The deaths in this film are quite gruesome. There are some pretty sickening images at the beginning. So if you're going to see this film, be prepared for that, especially at the beginning. The opening of this film is very, very strong. Now, the big problem that I have with this movie is, the only way I can describe it is to imagine someone who has to do an essay on a topic that they really, really love, that they're really passionate about, they know everything about it, but they can only do about, let's say, 2 pages. So they're very constricted into how much time they have, but they want to say so much. So what do? They end up talking about every aspect that they possibly can, but as a result, it never gets the attention that it needs, and it doesn't fit that well together. I'll give you an example. The film sort of focuses on jumping from point to point to point in order to tell its overall story. And so you'll have these bizarre transitions in the film where, for example, there's a scene where Newton Knight, Matthew McConaughey, is in the swamp with just a few people, talking about their motivations, getting close, becoming, comrades, and then it'll jump in an instant to a year later. And when we get back to the swamp, now there's suddenly an entire village in the swamp. And it seems to happen out of nowhere. And you're all asking yourself, wait, where did that come from? Why did that happen? I want to know how that developed. But they never talk about it. They just move on and they continue the story. And while it's interesting for me as a Civil War buff to be able to learn more about this story, I would have liked to have a more coherent vision, a more focused film. Like I said, all of the performances are great. The characters in this movie, the relationships that they develop are very believable. There's a scene where McConaughey helps a runaway slave take off the collar that he's forced to wear, which many slaves were forced to wear. That was a very nice moment. And they try in this film to connect what is happening to the future. They try and show its developments later on, but there's no way to talk about it without spoilers, so I will simply say that this film tries to tell more than one story at once, and it comes across as unnecessary. It comes across as unfocused, and it distracts from the general vision. I'll say this right now, guys. I was disappointed with this film. And the biggest reason is because the film was like watching a documentary rather than a cinematic experience.
Newton Knight was born in Jones County, Mississippi in 1837. His grandfather had owned a large number of slaves, but his father did not.
The film has no climax. There's no climax in this movie, guys. They tell the story on and on and on and on and on, and then the film just peters out. There's never a point that feels like, oh, this is when the tension is at its highest. Oh, this is when the potential for loss is at its greatest. And it's sad because there are moments in this film where that could work. The film extends beyond the Civil War. It talks about Reconstruction. It talks about how confusing that time period was, when allegiances would shift with the winds, when African Americans who had been freed from slavery suddenly had their freedoms taken away, where former slaves were forced to work for their former masters, only now they were employees and employers. But the film never takes advantage of that. Now, the overall look of the film is nice. The general lighting, the use of locations are very beautiful. I believed every moment that I was in that time period. But the general tone, the general pacing of the film felt more like a History Channel TV series that wasn't given enough time to develop. Like I said, the film jumps and jumps and jumps and jumps and jumps from point to point to point, and you can't really follow it along. Now, what else is there? Because I want to talk about this, guys. Let me see. I'll say that the attention to certain details, such as the politics in the film, is very good. There's a lot of attention to the development of Newton Knight's forces, because Newton Knight did fight a war of his own, and there is a lot of nice attention made to the individual battles and to how they progressed, but there's just not enough attention to a cohesive vision. I guess that's my big thing. I keep repeating it, and I do apologize, guys. Basically, the issue with this film is that it's got a lot of heart, it's got a lot of good intentions. As a Civil War buff, I was happy that it was there. I just wish with all my heart that they could have found a focus for the story, that they could have found a good climax, and that they could have dedicated every bit of their obvious interest into making it the best film that they possibly could. My final rating, guys, for Free State of Jones is a 5 out of 10. It's okay. It's not bad, but there just wasn't anything that really screamed great to me. It didn't catch me the way I wanted it to. I wanted this film to succeed. I wanted this film to make people interested in the Civil War again, because this is a story that needs to be told. Because this is a history, guys, I do want to say this. The reason why the Free State of Jones, why that story is important, is because it had ramifications on the future. Newton Knight was a man who was ahead of his time. He was a man who didn't care what the color of your skin was. Newton Knight had an African American wife at a time when that was a death penalty crime. He dared to have a black wife, and they had interracial children who continue to live in the community. There is a county in modern-day Mississippi that is named after him, or that is named after his ideal. It's called Jones County. And in that county, even into the Jim Crow era, there were numerous mixed families. There were families that had African American and white blood in them, and they would continue to marry, to have interracial marriages, even though that was against the law. The Free State of Jones had implications that lasted for years, and no one knows about it. And so my disappointment with this film is that it couldn't grasp more people, but I will say I'm still happy it exists, and I hope that you guys do at least bother to watch it. Just please be prepared to be very forgiving. The performances are great, but the story itself is not. So guys, thank you for letting me get on the soapbox there. And thank you again for giving me this chance to talk to you about something that I care about very deeply. As always, guys, I want to know what your thoughts are. If you've seen this film, if you've seen any other Civil War films, what is your favorite Civil War film if you have one? Please let me know in the comments below. And if you like what you see here, guys, and you want to see more, Don't forget to hit like and subscribe below, or you can follow me on Facebook for my older written reviews. Well guys, that's all for me today. Thank you once again for joining me. I wish you all the very best, and happy film going.